Day two of the NFL draft is officially over, and there's some very interesting storylines entering day three as we're going to end up wrapping up the draft. So I graded every pick. These are my immediate grades. They might change my final grades as I have time to think on it, but I do want to give my immediate grades for day two of the NFL draft, each and every pick. So if you guys enjoy NFL draft content, leave a like, subscribe if you are new. I want to give a huge thank you to a lot of you guys who are joining from the prospect spotlights. You guys have been incredible on the support. And I truly, really appreciate that. So much work goes into it so that you guys can have these videos for the draft. And so I really appreciate all the positive support. But guys, let's go ahead and get into it. This was a very interesting day two, and it started off with the Buffalo Bills at 33, who went with Keon Coleman. I gave it a B+. I like Keon Coleman a lot more than I think a lot of people like Keon Coleman. I think he's got the speed. His play speed is not his testing speed. I know he ran one of the slower 40 times, but this is a guy who's a contested catch guy. He gave up Gabe Davis, and I think Keon Coleman is very similar to Gabe Davis in a better way in a lot of similar areas as well. I think they got the weapon that they needed. I think Buffalo had a heck of a night. They did some really good stuff that I really liked. I think Keon Coleman was the start. The reason it's not an A, I thought they could have gone a couple of other directions. I liked a couple of other fits for them, and there were some better players on the board, in my opinion. But at 33, it's a B+. I don't think you could go wrong here. At 34, the Chargers trade up to snag their receiver. And they get Ladd McConkey. I gave this a B+ as well for a very similar reason. I think there was a better receiver on the board who ended up falling. So maybe in hindsight, you don't hate it. But I love Ladd now to the Chargers. You get a receiver who is going to play in the slot more than likely. He's 5'11", doesn't have the most impending size in the world, but he is a guy who is going to run routes at an extremely high level. He's fast, and that's kind of what this team needs. He's sure-handed. I like Quentin Johnston, Josh Palmer. I like the receivers they have. They didn't have a guy that I thought could create separation like Ladd McConkey can. He just has a nose for getting open. He knows how to find the soft spots, get himself open, leverage himself. I think that's going to be very valuable for Justin Herbert and the Chargers. So you get him at 34, it gets a B+. I think this was an excellent pick by the Chargers. At 35, the Falcons took Rook Orohiro. I gave it a C+ simply because not only they had 2 third-round picks in 74 and 79, they moved one of those seconds to Arizona to come up and get Rook, and I just didn't understand it. I think Rook has a ton of upside. He's a very green prospect. He's got a lot of tools that you really value in a defensive tackle. He's going to learn from Grady Jarrett. But to spend that extra draft capital, it was kind of a puzzling move from Atlanta, especially considering the other move that they made later on. It just didn't make a ton of sense to me. I like Rook, the player, but the fact that you had to trade up, you took him at 35, I think he probably could have still been down the board. I didn't fully understand it. It got a C+ from me. At 36, it is Jerzon Johnny Newton. It gets an A+. He was going to get an A+ really no matter where he went. Very interesting situation now in Washington. Kind of what are you going to do with Jonathan Allen and Daron Payne? Those are 2 defensive tackles on your team that are making a lot of really good money. You just drafted Jerzon Newton, who I think gives you a little bit of both of those guys. He's got incredible athleticism, a super quick first step, but on top of that, very good run defender, very good pass rusher from the interior. I think he's going to be a heck of a player. Was a top 15 guy in this class for me. You get him at 36. I think it's tremendous value for him. And I love this for Washington. Maybe it's not a position of need, but you got an absolute stud at 36. And now you could he could be a rotational guy for a year or two. Whatever you want to do, I think this team has options. I love it for them. And I'm going to go with him at number 36. I'm going to go with an A+ for this pick. I think he is one of the more pro-ready guys. If you want to develop him into something, that's fine. But he's an A+. At number 37, another A+. This was a pick that I did not see coming, and I was very happy for this pick. Not as a fan, because obviously, Colts fan, I still hate the Patriots, but I'm not biased. I think this was a heck of a pick by the New England Patriots. You got Jalen Polk. If you look at their receivers, they don't have a receiver that's quite like Jalen Polk. The hands, the separation ability. This is exactly what Drake May needs. He needs a receiver that you could say, F it, Jalen's down there somewhere, and he's going to come down with the ball. That's what they went out and they got him. It's a very good receiver class, but I kind of think they got the perfect receiver for them. I know Adonai Mitchell was still on the board. Roman Wilson was still on the board, who might be higher on the big boards, but for what New England needed in a receiver, I don't think they could have gotten any better than this. I think you got Pop Douglas, who's kind of that speedy guy. You got Kendrick Bourne, who's that possession guy. I think now Jalen Polk is kind of a mixture of both. It's an A+ for me. I love this pick for New England. At number 38, it's T'Vondre Sweat. It got an A from me. I love T'Vondre Sweat. Again, I'm a Colts fan, so I hate to say anything positive about the Titans. They need a nose. I believe T.R. Tart left in free agency. I could be wrong on that. Titans fans, correct me if I'm wrong down in the comment section. But T'Vondre Sweat, I didn't think he was going to get taken tonight. I really didn't. He had the DUI just a few weeks ago. I was like, oh, that's going to push him out of contention for day 2. And he went at number 38. I love this guy. He offers pass rush upside. He's a very good run defender, 360 pounds, very athletic, quick first step. And he's going to be playing next to Jeffrey Simmons, who I think could take off some of those pass rush duties, and he can really focus on stuffing the run and just being a space eater. It's a really good situation for him in Tennessee, and it's an A pick for me. At number 39, the Rams went with Braden Fisk. I went with a B+ here. I like Fisk. I like some of the corners on the board, though. Cooper DeJean, Kool-Aid McKinstry still sitting on the board. You moved up, and you got Braden Fisk, took back-to-back Seminoles defenders. He is their Aaron Donald replacement. And in all honesty, I think it could work for them. He's undersized, doesn't have the greatest length. Similar to Aaron Donald, he's a very good pass rusher from the interior. He's exactly what this team needs. I think he's going to be a very good player for them. It's a borderline A pick. I just think based on the guys that were still on the board, that's where I would have rather seen them go. But I think it's a great pick. He's in a great situation in LA, and he's going to be a good player. It gets a B+ from me. At number 40, the Eagles trade up to get Cooper DeJean. Now, I know one Eagles fan was telling me that the Eagles don't need secondary. Well, clearly, they didn't know what they were talking about because they went back-to-back secondary picks. I love this for Philly. It gets an A+ for me. Same thing as Quinyon Mitchell. DeJean is a guy that doesn't have to play right away, but you could play him everywhere in that secondary. You want him to play free safety, strong safety, put him there, he's going to thrive. You want him to play in the slot, he could do that for you. You want him to play on the boundary, he could do that. He's excellent at special teams. He just gives the Eagles some added versatility. This is a secondary that now with Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean has a lot of options on players that you can kind of move around. You still got Darius Slay. You brought back C.J. Gardner-Johnson. You drafted Kaylee Ringo. They turned their secondary from a weakness to a position that looks like a strength moving forward. I absolutely love what Philadelphia did. It's an A+. Cooper DeJean is a home run pick for Philadelphia. At number 41, it's another A+. We're just handing out A+'s right now. It's Kool-Aid McKinstry at 41. I know the medicals concern some people. I get it. Kool-Aid McKinstry is a heck of a prospect. One of the best press man coverage corners in this class. Very flexible. The Marshawn Lattimore situation, who knows where that's going? There were some trade rumors earlier on in the offseason. You go up and get a corner who I still think is one of the 3 best corners in this draft class. Cornerback 3, he ran, I believe, a 4.46. Maybe not the fastest, allowed a few big plays at the collegiate level. I think he's going to be fine, though. I love his flexibility, and I think Kool-Aid in New Orleans is a very good situation. It gets an A+ for me. I love what the Rams did, or what the Saints did with this pick here. At number 42, we saw the Texans go Kamari Lassiter. It got a B from me. I got to be honest, really was underwhelmed by what Houston did. I like the corners. I don't know if I like the value. I'm not the biggest fan of Kamari Lassiter, so that's just me. Not super fast. I thought that his ball skills were a bit lacking at times. He kind of was a jack of all, master of none kind of guy, which he's going to be a CB2 next to Derek Stingley. So maybe it'll work. I just didn't love it. He's not very fast, not super productive on paper. We'll see what he can end up being. It gets a B for me. I wasn't too moved by it, but I understand it from Houston's standpoint. At 43, this ripped my heart out as a Colts fan because I was hoping that Max Melton was going to be there at 45. He wasn't, and the Cardinals got a very good player here. I love Max Melton. He can run. He's super athletic. He's good in special teams, which they mentioned on the broadcast tonight. 3 blocked punts in his collegiate career. He's super versatile. You could play him in the slots. You could play him on the boundary. I love what he provides. Good ball skills. One of my favorite corners in this draft class. And again, Arizona, with another pick they made later on, I think they had a heck of a night as well. They really improved their defense quite a bit. You got Darius Robinson last night, and now Max Melton, who I think is going to be a very versatile chess piece for Jonathan Gannon's defense. At number 44, it has to be an A+. It's Jackson Powers-Johnson. Whether you're drafting him to be a guard or a center, I think this is a home run. You get a guy who I think is going to come in immediately and be one of the best offensive linemen right away. This reminds me of Creed Humphrey a little bit. Fell out of the first round, if I'm not mistaken, and was unbelievable as a rookie. Jackson Powers-Johnson is a bulldozer. He fits what the Raiders want to do. I'm going to be interested to see kind of where they go tomorrow on the last day to see if they improve this run attack, because I think that's something that needs to be done. But I really love this move for Vegas. You got a mauler on that front, and I think this is going to be a great pick in the long run for Vegas. It's an A+ for me. At number 45, the Packers took Edgerrin Cooper. I love this for them. It gets an A. Edgerrin Cooper is a freak athlete at the linebacker position. He's a very good mover. He's got good length, but he's going to be playing in that pass rush role, which I think is going to be very interesting. He had, I believe, 8 sacks and 14 tackles for loss over the last couple of seasons for Texas A&M. He's very athletic, knows how to get into the backfield. Coverage skills could improve a little bit, but I think athletically and the potential for Edgerrin Cooper is sky high. Arguably linebacker 1. He was my number 2 linebacker, but it gets an A. I think this is a great pick for Green Bay. Number 46, the Carolina Panthers took Jonathan Brooks. It got a B+. He is my running back 3 in this class, simply because I don't really know what the medicals hold. Obviously, they can't be too significant if they took him at 46. I have a feeling Jonathan Brooks is going to be an unbelievable player for Carolina as a rookie. I just don't really know what that injury is going to consist of, but they move up. They get who I've said it multiple times. If he was fully healthy, would be the number 1 running back consensus in this class for me. He's got the speed. He's got the vision, the receiving ability. He can block. He can do everything you want at the running back position. It's a B+. They needed running back. I like Trey Benson a little bit more, but you get a guy who I think is going to be an excellent player for you for a long time, and I love it. It's a B+ for Carolina. At number 47, the Giants took Tyler Nubin out of Minnesota, who was my number 1 safety. So I do like that they went with my number 1 guy. They didn't take a guy like Jaden Hicks, who I'm not the biggest fan of. It got a B for me. It is a need for the Giants. You lost Xavier McKinney. It's really the athleticism and the value. I just didn't know. I didn't expect to see any safeties taken in round 2 at all. Maybe Cole Bishop down the line, who did get taken ultimately in round 2. But I just didn't really fully get it in terms of, did they really need to address safety at 47 and a pretty decent safety class where you can find some value down the board? I didn't love it. I think it's a fine pick. It's a B. I love Nubin. I think he's going to be a great player. However, I think there were some more pressing needs for the New York Giants here at 47 that I would have addressed. At number 48, Mason Smith, it got a C+. I honestly didn't understand this pick. I know the Jags were looking for an interior defensive lineman. I get it. Mason Smith is not the guy I would have gone with. Chris Jenkins is on the board. Michael Hall's on the board. I might have even gone Mekhi Wingo, McKinley Jackson. There's a lot of guys that I like a little bit more than I liked Mason Smith. Mason Smith, it's really a what-if game. What if he pans out? Because he was unbelievable as a true freshman for LSU, had an injury, hasn't really been as explosive since then. I know some Jaguars fans are very split on this pick. That gets a C+ because I think the potential is unbelievably high, but the floor is pretty low, and I think there were, again, more pressing needs for Jacksonville entering the draft, and I don't think they addressed those the way that I thought they should have. At number 49, Chris Jenkins was the pick, and I think that would have been an excellent pick for Jacksonville. Jenkins has some pass rush upside, but his strength is as a run defender, where he was fantastic for Michigan over the last few seasons, and I think he's going to develop into being a very good player. They lost DJ Reader. This is your DJ Reader replacement in the long run. I quite like it. I think this is an A pick. I think he was one of the best defensive tackles in the class. and I like the value here. Cincinnati goes with a Michigan defender back-to-back years after taking DJ Turner in the second last year. At number 50, Mike Sainristil went to Washington. It gets a C plus. Now, I know the broadcast was talking very heavily of Washington's draft. I'm not the biggest fan of what Washington has done. I like the players that they got a lot. Sainristil is one of my favorite corners in this class. He's lightning in a bottle. It didn't really make sense, though, considering I think they need size at the cornerback position. You look at who they've got. They got Emmanuel Forbes, who's a smaller corner. They had Quan Martin, who they played in the slot last year. I'm assuming they're going to move him to safety, play Sainristil back there. They lost Kendall Fuller. There was just some question marks there. Now, I love the player. I just question, could they have gone with a bigger corner to play on the boundary to be that Kendall Fuller replacement? Because I don't really think they have that. And Emmanuel Forbes wasn't exactly incredible last year. It's a C plus for me. I'm not in love with the pick. I don't hate it either. I think it's an average pick. It's a C plus. An A plus, you guys know, if you follow this channel, I love Zach Frazier. I love everything about this guy. Former wrestler in high school. He is so nasty as a run blocker. The Steelers get him at 51. It's one of the easiest A pluses of the entire draft. You get the guy who might be the best true center in this entire draft class, who is going to be a day one plug-and-play starter to protect your quarterback, open up run lanes. The Steelers really haven't had that dominant force at the center position in a very long time. Zach Frazier is going to bring that immediately. It's an A plus. Here we go. The Colts took Adonai Mitchell. It's an A plus. I mean, if anyone's taking Adonai Mitchell here at 52, it was going to be an A plus. If it was the Titans, it would have been an A plus. If it's the Patriots, my team got Adonai Mitchell. I'm elated right now that we took my favorite defensive player and the receiver who I've been saying since the combine. I think Adonai Mitchell is the best fit for the Colts. Go back and watch those videos. I have been enamored with the idea of taking Adonai Mitchell at 15. Now, there were questions about he takes some plays off from time to time. The diabetes thing that kind of came up in the last month, which that was a bit of a weird red flag that showed up. Nonetheless, now you have that deep ball threat, a very good separator who's going to be able to win down the field with speed. This isn't Alec Pierce. This isn't Josh Downs. This is not Michael Pittman Jr. Pittman is that possession guy. You've got your slot in Josh Downs, and now you've got your true X number one receiver who I think could come in immediately and have an unbelievable rookie season. He's drawn comparisons to CeeDee Lamb. I think he's going to be awesome in Indianapolis. It's an A+. At 53, the Commanders were on the board again. They took Ben Sinnott. Again, this is probably more around the B+, B range. I just don't. It was tough for me because I love Ben Sinnott as a player. I love his versatility. You can play him in the backfield as a fullback. He's a good blocker. He's a good receiver as well. And he's sneaky athletic. But, again, offensive line is still on the board. This team has now drafted an offensive lineman up to this point. I would have gone out and addressed a guy. I would have gone out and got a guy like Patrick Paul, play him with his brother, get your tackle of the future to protect your quarterback. You went out and you got him a weapon, which I don't hate. This pick is probably going to change in my final rankings to just a B based on where guys were on the board. But nonetheless, I like Ben Sinnott. They needed a tight end. It's a B for me. At number 54, the Browns went with Michael Hall. Again, it's a B. Maybe could be up to a B+. Maybe an A-. As I'm thinking about this, I think I like this pick a little bit more. Michael Hall is a very good pass rushing force from the interior. You now pair him with Dalvin Tomlinson, Myles Garrett, and Zadarius Smith. This team is going to create a lot of pressure next year on the opposing quarterbacks. They're going to be a nightmare to face. I like this pick for them. He's a bit undersized at the position, but he shows some really nice explosiveness. Was a big riser at the Senior Bowl. It gets a B from me. At number 55, Patrick Paul. It was an A. You guys absolutely loved the Patrick Paul prospect spotlight. If you guys saw the graph, it was like this. And then after he was drafted, it was an immediate vertical. Patrick Paul was an unbelievable value pick here at 55. Surprised he didn't get taken earlier. A guy that we'd been hearing a little bit more buzz about. He's perfect for Miami. He's a guy that's a really good pass blocker, not a very incredible run blocker. And that's exactly what Miami wants to do. They want to run the football, or they want to pass the football. They don't run it as much as they can. And I think it's a perfect situation for a team that wants to get the ball out of his hands quickly. He's not going to be asked to do as much. You're probably going to play him at that left tackle. He's not even going to be protecting Tua's blind side. I think this is fantastic value for a guy who's going to probably be a day one starting tackle. It's an A for me for Miami. At number 56, it's Marshawn Kneeland. It gets a B. I love Marshawn Kneeland, the player. Dallas, I thought, could have gone running back with Trey Benson still on the board. Marshawn Kneeland probably going to be on the opposite side of DeMarcus Lawrence. And then you've got Micah Parsons, who's going to be that designated pass rusher guy. I just didn't really understand the pick all that much. I thought they could have gone corner, receiver, running back, linebacker. They went with another edge. I guess they lost Doris Armstrong, so maybe he's going to be the replacement. Wasn't a pick I loved. I love the player. I think he's going to be great. But for kind of what the Cowboys need, I didn't think it made a ton of sense. At number 57, it was Chris Braswell. It got a B+. It could be an A for me when it's all said and done. I absolutely love Chris Braswell. I have been on record saying this for a long time. He's a very good athlete with incredible length. Reminds me a lot of Danielle Hunter. And he's going to Tampa at 57 to be that edge rusher opposite of Yaya Diaby, to be that long-term replacement for Shaq Barrett. This team did a very good job of improving their defense in this draft, and I like it. It gets a B+ for me. He's one of my favorite edge rushers, one of my favorite sleepers. I think it's good value for him here at 57. At 58, it's Javon Bullard. Gets a B. They brought in Xavier McKinney to kind of play that safety role. I think he's probably going to play a little bit more in the nickel, so I do like that for them. You got Jair Alexander, you got Javon Bullard now. Going to be a nice, interesting secondary there in Green Bay. I like Bullard. I think he's a good player. I was a bit lower on him than most. I like his versatility. His ball skills was very good for Georgia. I think I would have gone with another safety. I like Cole Bishop here. I think he would have been a good fit with Xavier McKinney. But I do like Javon Bullard. It gets a B from me. Ignore the numbers up at the top because for whatever reason, I'm a number off on all of them. Blake Fisher was the 58th overall pick to the Houston Texans. It got a C- from me. I didn't understand this pick. Again, I wasn't in love with what they did. I like Blake Fisher, the player, quite a bit. I think athletically, he has a lot that you really love at the tackle position. However, there's a lot that you don't. He's still a very raw prospect. He's probably going to be a swing tackle developmental guy. You got Titus Howard coming back. You still got Laramie Tunsil. I thought there were more pressing needs. I would have gone guard before I would have gone tackle. So it got a C- for me. Next pick was Cole Bishop. It got an A. They needed safety, Jordan Poyer, Micah Hyde. They needed to find a long-term replacement here, and they did. And they got Cole Bishop, who was one of my favorite players, favorite sleepers in this draft class. You get him at 60, the guy who could play almost everywhere, very good in the box, good coverage skills. I love this fit for Buffalo. That is going to get an A from me. The next pick was Ennis Rakestraw to the Lions. Now, I'm a huge Ennis Rakestraw guy, and I've been saying for a long time, Rakestraw is perfect for Dan Campbell's system, does a good job of coming down to defend the run. He's a very good tackler. They drafted Terrion Arnold last night. I didn't think it made a lot of sense to double dip at corner, and so I think it's at 61. It's a B. I love the player. I thought they could have gone somewhere else, especially considering they only had 2 picks tonight. So to go back-to-back corner is interesting, but it gets a B for me. Next pick was Roger Rosengarten. This was an easy A+. I thought Rosengarten could have gone very high tonight, and he ends up going to a Baltimore situation where I think he is going to be awesome for this team. He's got incredible athleticism. He's a very good run blocker at the position. There is a lot to really love about Roger Rosengarten, and I think he's a perfect fit to replace Morgan Moses at the right tackle position. People are going to point to that game against Michigan. Look at the rest of the tape, though. He was very dynamic, and he showed some very solid skills. It's an A+ from me. At 63, Kingsley Suamataia, Chiefs trade up 1 spot to get him. It's a B for me, not because I don't like it for the Chiefs. I think it makes a lot of sense. He's versatile, could probably start for you at left or right tackle. I'm not a big fan of Kingsley Suamataia, though. He's moved down my board significantly. He's still very raw, a lot of whiffs, still very unpolished. At 63, I think it's good value, though. It's why it's not any lower. I also didn't love the fact that they gave up assets to move up, but I'm assuming they knew San Francisco was going to take him. It got a B from me. At 64, Renardo Green, it's an A. I love his size. One interception in his collegiate career is what everyone's going to talk about. He was a lot more productive than that. Very hard to throw the ball against. He's a good mover, good athlete, really shot up the boards in the last month. And to have him and Charvarius Ward now in that secondary, I think is going to be very dynamic to see. It's an A for San Francisco. At pick number 65, Malachi Corley's an A+. Unbelievable value here. You get a slot weapon now for Aaron Rodgers. We'd heard these sides linked for a long time, but the fact that it actually happened now, it's really, really good value for the Jets. Now a guy who you could get the ball to in space. He's going to make some dynamic plays. The Jets have had an excellent draft with Olu Fashanu and Malachi Corley as your first two picks. The Yak King is in New York with Aaron Rodgers, Garrett Wilson, and Mike Williams. Now that receiving trio looks very dynamic. It is an A+ for the Jets. At 66, another A+ for me, and that is going to be Trey Benson out of Florida State. A guy who was my number one running back, great receiver, has some blocking potential. Arizona needed to find a running back. I know my guy Michael is going to be upset that it's not Braylon Allen. You got Trey Benson. Trey Benson's the best running back in this class. He's elusive. He's got good vision, and he's got very good long speed. Big fan of what Trey Benson is going to bring to Arizona. It's an A+. At number 67, we're going to change slides here. It was Brandon Coleman, and it got a C. Now, I'm not the biggest fan of Brandon Coleman. It might be upgraded to a B when it's all said and done. I know I said I wanted the Commanders to go O-line. I didn't really mean Brandon Coleman. I think he's very unpolished still. He's very athletic, and I think that's really why he went this high. His athleticism, his upside is tremendous, and I think he offers some very intriguing versatility to play guard, to play tackle at the next level, which is good for Washington. It's still a C for me. I wasn't moved by it because I'm not the biggest fan of Brandon Coleman's game. Like I said, I think he's very raw, very unpolished, and I thought it was a bit of a reach for Washington here at 67. Another reach for me was Caden Wallace at 68. He's very experienced for Penn State, comes with a lot of experience. As I said, I believe he started 40 games. An older tackle prospect, might start at the left side for them. Another guy who tested out very well, very athletic, felt like a bit of a reach in the top 70, but nonetheless, offensive line is an important position. This is another pick. This and Coleman, I think, might be upgraded to Bs when I finish this up because I do think these are picks that make sense for them. But Kieran Amagaji, Dominic Pooney, Christian Haynes even. Like, there's guys that I really love that are still on the board, and I think they reached a little bit. Caden Wallace is a C for me. At 69, Junior Colson. The reason it's not higher, it's an A- because I love Junior Colson. I think it's great value for him. The reason it's not higher, they drafted Dion Henley last year. I know they did lose Eric Kendricks and Kenneth Murray this offseason. So it makes sense that they went out and drafted a linebacker. You keep him here, one of the best coverage linebackers in this draft class, if not the best. Very good athlete. He's fluid. I think he can improve as like coming downhill to defend the run, but his coverage skills are elite. And Jim Harbaugh got one of his guys. I love this fit for him. It gets an A- from me. At number 70, it was Andrew Phillips. It got a B. Double dip at secondary was certainly a choice for the Giants. I'm not a fan of Andrew Phillips, as you guys know. I think he's probably going to be a slot corner at the next level. He's an okay tackler. His ball skills are okay. His movement skills and speed are solid, but they're not elite. I don't really think he offers anything elite at the cornerback position. And I think there were better players on the board for one. And double dipping at secondary was interesting from the Giants. When I thought they could have improved the offensive line, they maybe could have grabbed another running back because most of those are still on the board. Spencer Rattler. I thought there were other ways they could have gone. Do I hate it? No. I think it makes sense, but it wasn't my favorite pick nor my favorite player. It's a B for me. Number 71, it was Isaiah Adams, a B-, similar to the Brandon Coleman and Caden Wallace. I think it was a bit early for Isaiah Adams, but I had pitched Graham Barton as an idea to the Cardinals at a mock recently. And it feels like a light version of what Graham Barton could be for that team. Very versatile, could play tackle, could play guard, a good athlete, great hands. I like the pick for him. It's not one I'm in love with. I think 71's a bit high. I probably would have taken him closer to the 4th round, but Arizona needed to improve this interior. I think you get a pretty solid guard here that's going to offer you some nice versatility to swing tackle. It gets a B from me. At number 72, Trevin Wallace, another B from me. I thought this team probably could have double dipped at receiver, probably could have looked to address the interior offensive line a little bit more. They could have gone corner. I love Trevin Wallace as a player. Don't get me wrong. I think Trevin Wallace is one of my favorite linebackers. He's extremely athletic, good in coverage. He's also pretty good tackler, but he has some misses and some whiffs at times that I think he's going to need to improve. I knew Carolina was going to go linebacker high. Peyton Wilson was a big shocker that he fell as low as he did. I like it. It's a B for me. I thought there were better, more important positions to address, especially with all the talent at linebacker in this class. Especially in day 3, you got Cedric Gray, Jeremiah Trotter, like some of the top guys still on the board. But nonetheless, Trevin Wallace is a B. At 73, Cooper Beebe is an A+. I love Cooper Beebe. This is where I'm thinking right now. As I was mapping this video out, I was like, okay, I think they're going to play Tyler Smith at left tackle, swing Cooper Beebe in at left guard, and then they're going to play Guyton at right tackle. That's kind of where I'm at with this team. Cooper Beebe is one of the nastiest run blockers in this entire draft class. He's physical. He is a mauler. The nickname of the dancing bear. Cooper Beebe is incredible. At this value at 73, a guy who I thought should have been a second-round pick, it's an A+. I thought Dallas absolutely crushed it here. At 74, it was Braylon Trice. It's a B. They finally addressed edge, which they needed to do. They didn't really get any athleticism off the edge, though. He was very poor at the combine in terms of his testing, came in 30 pounds lighter, a guy who's not really a power guy. I like Braylon Trice. I don't love him. I thought they could have gone a little bit better. I've been pretty underwhelmed with what Atlanta has done, to be completely honest. It gets a B for me because it's a position of need, but it's not one that I was in love with. At 75, it was Kieran Amagaji, another pick that I quite like. It is a B. He can play left tackle for you right away. I don't think he has to, though. And I think that's the beauty of this pick. They're getting some more protection for Caleb Williams, which was priority number 1. Protect your greatest asset. Give him a good support system, an offensive line that is much improved since the Justin Fields days. You've got weapons for him now. Kieran Amagaji is a very raw prospect, but the upside, the athleticism is there. Played FCS competition, but I love what he's going to provide. This is a B for the Bears. At 76, the Broncos went Jonah Ellis. It is an A from me. They needed an edge rusher. They got a guy that some people have compared to a former Broncos great edge rusher in Elvis Dumervil. He's a bit undersized, but he's got a very nice array of pass rush moves. He packages them together pretty well. He's got a very quick first step, very athletic. He needs to get a bit stronger, a little bit bigger, I think, and he's coming off of surgery. Brothers are in the league, but I think Denver has had a pretty nice draft so far, getting Bo Nix and Jonah Ellis to really help shore up this team long term. Number 77, it was Delmar Glaze. I couldn't tell you, 1, how frustrated I was that ESPN didn't show this pick. 2, how absolutely ecstatic I was that Delmar Glaze was taken on the 3rd. I've been telling y'all for a long time, Delmar Glaze is one of the best offensive tackles in this class. Everyone is sleeping on him. People had him in the 5th, the 6th round. You're not going to see another grades video in this entire cycle. I guarantee you that is praising this pick. I know Raiders fans don't love this pick. This is an awesome pick, I think, for the Raiders. He could play that left tackle position for you. You could kick him into guard. You could play him at the right side. He offers versatility. He offers athleticism. He's a good run blocker, still developing as a pass blocker, I think. But I think the upside is there. He could be a swing tackle for you. I love this pick for the Raiders at 77. This is an offensive line that has sucked for a long time, and getting Jackson Powers-Johnson and Delmar Glaze to be 2 pieces that you can kind of move around anywhere on that line, I think is very valuable, and it gets a B from me. For the Raiders, it gets a B simply because they did go with a guard / center earlier. If they hadn't, it would have been an A, but it gets a B based on kind of who they already had taken. At 78, it was Kalen Bullock, another B. Kalen Bullock is a good safety. I really like his ball skills, his size, his movement abilities, and coverage. His tackling is very poor, though. He's going to be a long-term project for this team, I think. They double dip at secondary as well, going Kamari Laster and Kalen Bullock. I don't love it. I don't hate it either. It gets a B for me. I think Houston's had an okay draft, but it hasn't been anything that has excited me a ton. At 79, Matt Gonclaves was taken to my Colts. It got a D, probably. I think it's my lowest pick. It just made no sense to me whatsoever. They drafted Blake Freeland last year to be that swing tackle. They had a good offensive line already. Why would you spend a premium pick in the third round on a guy that I don't think is very good? And it just doesn't make sense to me as a Colts fan. The corner, still a position in need. There's great corners on the board entering the fourth round, which I fully expect the Colts to optimize that. They could have gone with a tight end. I would have been happy with a safety, but they went with an offensive lineman, which was one of the few positions that I was like, no, we don't need to address that. And if we did, it was a guard, and it wasn't Gonclaves. I get he's athletic. Maybe you could swing him to guard to be the Will Fries replacement, but it's a D. The Colts draft was perfect up until this point. At number 80, Jermaine Burton gets an A. The character concerns are a problem. Even Nick Saban talked about it. He gets way too emotional at times. But to me, this is an unbelievable pick. At 80, you get a guy who's got second-round talent. He's a very good separator, pretty solid athlete, good hands. You just get Burrow another weapon. They improve the defense by shoring up that interior. They also improve the O-line long-term, and then you get him another weapon. So who knows what's going to happen with T. Higgins now? But at 80, I think there's a great value for Jermaine Burton. At number 81, it was Christian Haynes, A+. I love Haynes. I think he is a nasty offensive tackle or offensive guard. And if you look at the Seahawks' biggest need, what was it? Guard. They went out and they got Christian Haynes, who was one of the best guards in this entire draft class. I love it. A+ from Seattle. At 82, Tip Ryman. This almost got a D for me. It got a C- because I think what they're planning to do is play him in line to be that blocking tight end and use Trey McBride as another weapon. But for one, Tip Ryman in the top 100, I thought was ridiculous. I wouldn't have taken him to the fifth until the fifth. He's very limited as a receiver. While the athleticism is there and you see potential, he has not shown that at Illinois. I believe he had 19 receptions last year. Number 2, they have one of the best tight ends in football in Trey McBride. Why would you go out and draft another tight end? Everyone's talking about how good the Cardinals and Commanders draft class is, and I get it. They had more quantity over quality. I did not think Tip Ryman was a very great pick for Arizona. I like him as a player quite a bit. I think he's going to be a good tight end. At 82, though, it's a C- for me. At number 83, Blake Corum gets an A. And you guys know I don't like Blake Corum. He was one of my most overrated players in this draft class. This is a spot, though, that I had not thought about. This value is tremendous. 83, you get a guy who probably won't be a number 1 back. He's going to be that number 2 back. He's going to be that speed back for this team. He's got an unbelievable jump cut, and he's going to be in that same backfield with Kyren Williams. This could be a very fun LA offense next year. It gets an A from me. At 84, it's Roman Wilson, A+. I shouldn't even have to explain it. You lost Deontay Johnson. This is your replacement, a guy who's an unbelievable separator, route runner, got great hands. He's honestly better as a contested catch guy than people give him credit for. The Steelers have they've murdered this draft. This has been an incredible draft class. A+ for this pick as well. At 85, it is Zach Zinter, not D. Zinter, this is an A guy who tore his fibula and tibula, and I still think it's an A. He's a guy that people had going later, but when you watch the tape of Zach Zinter, this guy was incredible. He just provides some depth for this team. He's not going to be a starter right away, which I think is important to note, but he is going to provide some depth. He's very good, very nasty as a run blocker as well, and he showed some very good upside in pass pro. Probably could have been one of the first guards off the board if he was healthy. It's an A for Cleveland. At 86, it's Dominic Pooney, another A. I love this pick. He could be your long-term left tackle. He could be your right tackle next year. He could be your left guard, your right guard, your center. He could play all 5 positions on this offensive line, and that is extremely valuable for a 49ers team that I think could use some plug-and-play guys like this. I love this fit. I love this pick. Another one. ESPN didn't call it. What are you doing, ESPN? Call the picks. That's what we're here to see. We're not here to see a pure Michigan ad. We want to see Dominic Pooney's name called on the podium. It's an A, though. I thought it was an incredible pick for San Francisco. At 87, Maurice Leafau got a C. Now, I like Leafau quite a bit. Was one of my biggest sleepers at the linebacker position. I think he's incredibly athletic. He plays with his hair on fire. Even the broadcast said that tonight. He's a very good tackler. Coverage could be a bit up and down. Could play overly aggressive. It got a C. I thought Dallas could have gone linebacker. Leafau felt like a bit of a reach, especially a guy that didn't test out very well at the combine. Outside of this past year at Notre Dame was a bit up and down. So I didn't fully get it, but nonetheless, it's a C. I think it makes sense. But I think it was a bit of a reach on the player. At 88, it was Marshawn Lloyd. Another one, I actually didn't think this made a ton of sense to them. They re-signed A.J. Dillon, they signed Josh Jacobs, and they drafted Marshawn Lloyd, who I really like. I think he's versatile as a receiving back. He's a better blocker than people think. He's quick, has a bit of an injury history. He's a good back. I didn't think Green Bay was going to go with the running back, let alone in the top 100. It gets a B from me. I don't hate it. I think it makes sense. A.J. Dillon is up and down, but at 88, I thought it was a bit high for Marshawn Lloyd. At 89, Tyke Smith got a B for me. Not a guy that I was particularly high on, but he does provide a lot of versatility to this defense. It's a B for me. They needed to improve this secondary. They lost some pieces. Could play that strong safety role with Antoine Winfield as your roaming free safety. It's a B. I think it makes a lot of sense for him. At 90, Elijah Jones got an A-. Now, the reason that this got an A-, I think we talked about, well, they double dipped with Detroit. This is a bit different, though, because I think you now have a guy, Elijah Jones, 6'3". He's going to be that boundary corner. Very good ball skills. Now you got Max Melton, who's more than likely going to play in the slot. Detroit also had proven secondary guys there already. Arizona needed to improve this secondary desperately, and they got two very good corners that I think are going to be very impactful for them. This is an A- pick. Good mover, good athlete, and he's been a hot riser through this pre-draft process. It's an A-. At 91, Tyron Hopper, it's a B-. I really love the athleticism of Quay Walker, Edgerrin Cooper, and Tyron Hopper. But again, you went linebacker already. You could have gone with you could have gone receiver here. I wouldn't have hated that. There are a few other positions, defensive tackle, I thought could have made sense. Double dipping at linebacker was interesting. Hopper's a guy that I thought was probably around 5'6" talent. He's athletic. He's a good tackler. He offers some pass rush upside, very similar to Edgerrin Cooper in a lot of different ways. He's also versatile. He can play off the edge if you need him to. But it's a B- for me. I wasn't in love with the pick. At number 92, Jalen McMillan is an A. He's going to be that slot receiver that this team needs. I like Trey Palmer. I thought he showed some nice flashes as a rookie. Jalen McMillan, if he wasn't banged up, probably goes in the second round. They compared him to Jackson Smith and Jigba. I love this trio now of Evans, Godwin, and McMillan. It's an A. Another weapon. I think this is great value for Tampa Bay at 92. At 93, Adisa Isaac is an A+. They needed some extra pass rush help, but not only did they get a good pass rusher, a good athlete, this is the best run defending edge in the draft class, in my opinion, outside of maybe Dallas Turner. Adisa Isaac at 93, I thought was tremendous value. I really like what he's going to be able to bring. I think I had him as around like I had him at number 100 on my board. I thought he was going to go around early third round, and he's still on the board here at 93. You got really, really good value for him at a position of need. A+ Baltimore. At 94, Jalix Hunt out of Houston Christian. It got a B. I really am curious at where Philly is going to try and use him. Are they going to try and use him as an edge to kind of be that designated pass rush guy to be the Hassan Reddick replacement? They did get Bryce Huff, so I'm not sure there. He could play linebacker. He's solid in coverage. I like his versatility. I think it's a good fit for Philly. They've kind of gone with Terrion Arnold and Jalix Hunt, guys that they can kind of move all around the defense. It's a B. I'm not like super familiar with his tape. What I've seen, I do like quite a bit, but I don't think it's a home run by any means. It's a B for Philly. At 95, Dwayne Carter's an A-. I really like this guy. I think he offers some nice pass rush upside from the interior. He's a good run defender as well. He's a bit older at the position, comes with a lot of experience though. I think this is going to be a great fit for Buffalo's defense. It's an A. At 96, another A. I loved this pick. This was a pick. I didn't see this one coming. They went with Jerry and Jones, exactly what they needed. You lost Darius Williams, your slot corner, and you went out and you got a slot corner here in Jerry and Jones. I know he's 6 foot. He's got the size to play on the boundary, but I think he's going to be a slot guy. You saw when Florida State moved him to the slot. That's where he thrived. It's an A. I think this is a really good fit and a good situation for him to go into. At 97, McKinley Jackson got a C. I like McKinley Jackson, the prospect. I think he's underrated. I think he's way more athletic than the RAS score is going to lead you to believe. He's got an unbelievable size at the position. You drafted Chris Jenkins, though. Did you really need another defensive tackle? I mean, I like this young front that they're building, but I thought, again, you could have gone with a corner. You could have gone a couple of different ways. It gets a C for me. I'm not in love with it, but I don't hate it either. At 98, another A+ for the Steelers. You got the best linebacker in the class, in my opinion. I know the medicals are scary, but at 98, you got to take a chance on one of the best talents in this draft class. Unbelievable athlete. He is a tackling machine, is in every single tackle pile. He can cover. He can come down and defend the run. A+. Pittsburgh, so far throughout this draft, if you're keeping track, has A+ across the board. At 99, it was Cam Kinchins. It got a B. I'm happy to see Cam Kinchins get in the 3rd round. I thought this was where he should have gone. I know a lot of people had jumped off the Kinchins hype train after the Combine, after the Senior Bowl. You got to pay attention to the tape. Tape is what's most important here. Kinchins' tape is very good. He's a ball hawk. This team needed some safety help, and I think they get one of the better safeties in this draft class. I'm still very high on Kinchins. It is a B. And finally, the last pick was Luke McCaffrey. Again, Washington, and they're getting positions of need, but look at the talent that's on the board here. Luke McCaffrey seemed like was consensus a round 5-6 guy. You took him at number 100 in the 3rd round. I like his versatility. He's a good route runner. He's going to be a nice weapon in that slot with Dotson and McLaurin, so I think it makes sense. But looking at the guys on the board, I didn't love it. These are my immediate reactions, though. Stay tuned. After the draft tomorrow, I will have my official grades of every pick and every team's grade overall, as we're going to break that down. We're going to have my biggest steals of the draft, my biggest reaches in the draft, which you'll see a couple of those on here. You'll see a lot of really fun content that I'm super excited. And then my way too early 2025 mock draft is coming as well. Stay tuned for those. Leave a like, subscribe if you are new, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Adios.